Hello, and welcome to another Early Years Matter conversation. I'm Matthew Hansen from the Buffett Early Childhood Institute. And today, joining me is Scott Hazelrigg, the president of NorthStar Foundation, an Omaha nonprofit that works to improve the graduation rates of boys in North Omaha. Thanks for joining me today, Scott.
Thanks, Matthew.
So today we're going to focus on the so-called COVID slide, which loosely defined is this idea that many students haven't been sort of in a regular educational environment since mid-March. Obviously, the disruption of spring by the pandemic, followed by summer break. Experts are saying this has a potential to set students back many months, in some cases as much as a year, in reading, math, and other areas. When you think about COVID slides, Scott, what do you identify as the potential risk to students and to our school system?
Sure. Thanks, Matthew. Well, as we well know, summer learning loss is for folks in the nonprofit world is actually one of those things that's really easy to measure. Typically in a summer, we'll do a pre, mid, and post test for a 40-day program to be able to track where students at on some basic things like reading and math. And so our ability to quantify our impact in the summer is almost greater than during the regular school year. Now, the challenge is that when summer went from 2 months to 5 months or 6 months, we also know that a student who may be in poverty may have limited access to resources and opportunities to engage their brain, even if it's non-traditional education, that the chances for them to lose in a normal summer a grade to a grade and a half are real and quantifiable. And so then add to that the potential that over the course of the last 5 months, their houses and their families may have been in greater disruption because of loss of job or more students and families and grandparents all at home and without access to being able to get out and move around. There may be that added challenge of food and just basic needs. And so looking at what a student will bring to the table when they walk back in to school here in August is going to be a complicated process for educators to be able to listen and thoughtfully figure that out. So the ramifications long term are potentially huge. The near term is going to be how do we really make sure that we can listen thoughtfully and figure out where students are at, realizing that we may bop back into homebound learning exclusively. And so it's not that we're coming out of something, we're continuing a process that's already in place.
Yeah. I'm really interested to talk to you today in part because NorthStar, has been part of this experiment, I guess, in how to work with kids during the pandemic this summer. You're trying to do something about COVID slide. You've revamped your summer programs. You're actually bringing students in. And I'm just interested to hear how that's going, especially with younger students, and how you think it's working.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'll start with just the basic piece. Before we brought students back on site, those questions of safety and security and making sure we were putting students and staff in a position to mitigate risk and to put them in a position to be physically safe was really important. So we're serving about a third the number of students that we would during a typical summer day. But things from when students arrive, they don't get out of the car. We do a temperature check while they're still in their parents' or grandparents' vehicle. If they are cool, then they get out. If they're warm, they may stay in that car and go back home. But then followed by procedures of hand washing and regular use of hand sanitizer and also masks whenever they're inside and even outside when they're closer than 6 feet. So part of this summer has been us practicing for what we'll need to do this fall, but we've really followed Launch Nebraska and other guidance of what schools will be doing this fall in implementing those procedures this summer, because we start with safety and security and then everything else is possible. If we fail on that note, it really doesn't matter. What we have found, though, is that I was actually surprised, and I think our staff was surprised, that students returning actually came in much more willing or ready to be able to navigate those new procedures. And also for a third grader or a fourth grader to realize that they're going to be in a room with 7 or 8 or 9 other students their age and one teacher or one instructor, and really not have the same mobility that they normally would over a 6, 7, or 8 hour summer day. They've handled that really well. But I think that also is a reflection of the fact that they feel like they've been really cooped up in their home and they've seen the same 5 people for the last 5 months. And so almost their joy of being able to be in a different environment and interacting with their peers has driven what we've seen as, to be honest with you, just really good positive behaviors. Whether that will continue over the course of months, I don't know. But over the course of the last 3 weeks, we have been pleasantly surprised and really encouraged that students have taken feedback well. Hey, remember, you got to put your mask up. Hey, make sure you go wash your hands every hour. Those things, they seem to have taken on that direction much easier than I would have anticipated.
Yeah. Um, the COVID slide, like so much about this pandemic, is disproportionately affecting, or is expected to disproportionately affect, lower income students, students of color. Um, how do you view the potential long-term trauma of this period, especially as it relates to all the other things that a student in poverty might bring, you know, in their with their experience to school?
Well, there was a lot at the beginning of the COVID process where you'd see posts or people would say, you know, we're all in this together and we're all in the same ocean. And the answer is we are all in the same ocean, but not everybody comes to the ocean with the same boat. If your boat was smaller and your boat had a hole in it and your boat was taking on water before COVID, it was only going to take on water more rapidly and create a bigger problem quicker if you were a student in poverty. And so I think what we really are going to have to watch for and figure out long term, not in the next 6 weeks, not in the next 6 months, but really long term over the educational trajectory of students who are in elementary school, middle school, and high school now is how do we help to set through what is a huge opportunity gap, but also what could be a trauma gap. A student of affluence who may have two parents, even if they're both working and working from home, may be in a situation where those parents can juggle and balance connecting with their kids and providing them with opportunities while still navigating work from home. A single parent who may be working 2 or 3 jobs but requires them to be out of the home because their job is that kind of a job may have had significantly less structure, significantly less resources, significantly less connectivity over the course of the last 5 months. And what's that do to them, not only in terms of brain development and in terms of structure to be able to jump back into a setting like school, but also what's that do in terms of the opportunity for them to have been reading at home or engaged in activities that will keep them thinking about stuff beyond, to be honest with you, Fortnite, the television, or a nap. And so that's really one of those things that I think that the poverty gap, but also the potential that students in poverty may be living in homes that, of course, are smaller, have more multi-generations of relatives living with them. Maybe then a sibling moved back home, maybe grandparents are living in that environment with them. And then also then we know that's a greater risk potentially for acquiring the virus itself.
All right, Scott, thanks a lot for answering my questions today.
You bet. Thank you.